so we'll have to go a couple days early to get our sleep orientation right. We play at nighttime probably against Penn State, so we won't have to do that. That'll just be a wheelhouse game for us in terms of 4:30. We play at night against Rutgers. So, when it comes down to it, though, it's awesome experiences. It's why you go to the Big Ten. So you look at your schedule and you're able to say, this weekend, Washington is playing Penn State, and Oregon's playing Ohio State, and Michigan's playing SC, or whatever it might be. I mean, these are the great games of college football that you used to only get once or twice a year. Now you're getting them every single week. So I can't wait to go to State College. I know what it's like. Well, when I was at Michigan, we played in the whiteout game in 2015. And, happened to be successful in that game.
You said about Jonathan Smith coaching against him. Just what did you see as like a staple of his offense, and where do you think he will go at Michigan State, just as the direction of the program?
Yeah, Jonathan's a great coach. We got to play him last year for the first time. It was the first time we played Oregon State, but I've known Jonathan for a long time. He's really, really good in terms of putting together an offensive system. He plays under center. He plays with tight ends. He throws the ball with play action. He takes shots down the field at the right time. He's a really good play caller, or kind of sets up a really good game plan when he's not calling it. I've known him from when he was the offensive coordinator at UW. So I think that Michigan State is in good hands with a really, really good person and a really good coach.
Coach, you mentioned numerous times that you want to be like an NFL team.
Mm-hmm.
And one of your players said something that really resonated with me. He said that your goal is to become the 33rd NFL team. What does that look like, and what's it going to take to get there?
Well, it's going to look like we're going to have to do everything that it takes to be a pro, which means we've got to be on time to everything we do. We have to work extremely hard in the weight room. We have to commit outside of the normal day. You're going to have to give more to get more. You're going to have to take nutrition very serious. You're going to have to commit in the training room before you get injured, not after you get injured. Being a pro, being the 33rd NFL team, all of those things have to do with all of the decisions you make off the field. Then during practice, we run every drill like every other team runs a drill. I mean, there's no magic drills out there. There's no special offenses out there. Now, the good part is our offense is the same offense as 17 different NFL teams run. No one else can say that. Our defense is straight out of New England. Nobody else can say that. So those two aspects of our program, the pro-style offense and the pro-style defense that we run, is unique. A lot of people say they run pro-style but have never coached in the pros.
So does it? We were at Arizona last week, as you talked about it being an LA-based recruiting school. Washington has pretty much a similar lineage and history. So how do you balance? You got Arizona kids that came. Obviously, you want the best kids in Washington. There's a Bay Area culture up there. How do you balance all those different time zones, relationships, and recruits?
Yeah, we're going to recruit California really hard still. We're going to utilize the relationships that we built when we were in Tucson. We're going to absolutely utilize the brand of Washington because it's had so much success, like you said, in California. I would say that Washington has had a lot of success in the Bay Area more than we had in Arizona. We were more Southern California. We're going to try to be all of California now. We have the most amount of NFL players from the West Coast, from the University of Washington, 46 guys right now in the league. So we're going to try to recruit that, really, Washington, Oregon, California, Arizona, Hawaii, those 5 states. We're going to try to attack and be relentless recruiters in those areas. And then we're going to pick and choose where on the East Coast and where in the Midwest we're going to try to get some players.
What's it like to go from Noah Fafita, Will Rogers, and both have NFL qualities? What are some similarities that you've seen between those guys and how they play?
Yeah, they're both very cerebral. They're both very smart. I like to always say their central processing unit is very fast. They really do have a great understanding of the game of football. Will is a coach's kid. Noah is a coach's kid. They love the game. You don't have to tell them to come in. You don't have to tell them, to be there extra. They have a little bit different skills here or there, but when it comes down to it, they're both pocket passers. Neither one are really outside of the pocket guys, and they both have great poise.
How have Elijah Jackson and Kellerstein, both two kids come from Lawndale High, state championship programs. Elijah had a lot of play time last year. How have those guys kind of held it down and taken things on?
Yeah, both Mikkel and Elijah are on our leadership council. So both of those guys have made immediate impacts in our program. We only have 16 players on our leadership council, and 2 of them are Mikkel and Elijah. I expect them both to start. I expect them both to contribute heavily, and I expect both of them to make major impacts in the program.
We talked about West Coast recruiting, obviously. Is it more important to have a foothold on East Coast cities and Midwest cities now that this is a national conference, now that this does go coast to coast? How do you balance that between the need to, recruit the talented kids in the West Coast, but also, maybe spread out nationwide?
Yeah, you have to decide where you want to use your resources and where your connections are. So in my mind, our connections are the West Coast, our connections are in Florida, our connections are in the Connecticut prep schools in New Jersey. And those are the areas that we know the best. We can't not go try to get a player out of Jersey. We can't not go try to get a player out of Connecticut. And we can't not try to go to Florida. Those are areas we've recruited heavily in our different spots we've been at. I don't want to spend a lot of time trying to recruit in areas where I don't know the high school coaches, where our staff is unfamiliar. We have done really well in Texas, actually, this go around. So we'll continue to build that relationship up. But we're going to try to be smart where we spend our money and where we spend our resources. And I don't want to just fly all across the country and try to ask guys to skip over 20 states to get to us.
Well, you mentioned, Connecticut and Florida and the places you do have relationships. Do you think it's maybe an easier sell now that Washington is in the Big Ten, that, you're going to be playing these schools in Ohio and in Pennsylvania and in Florida and in all these places where they would be flying over anyway?
Yeah, 1,000% it's easier. It's also easier because of revenue sharing and NIL. You used to be able to, you'd have to tell them how they were going to afford to go see their kid play, right? Now you're able to say, hey, here's the deal. We're playing nationally. We're playing on the East Coast. We're playing in the Midwest. We're playing in the West Coast. Your son will be able to pay for your flight, and you'll be able to make it to a lot more games because we're going to have 3 games within driving distance for you. So that's without a doubt a sell for us. It's without a doubt something that we're looking to do and make sure that message is clear.
Coach, I know you're not focused on games 3 months from now, but just as somebody who's, I guess, an outsider to what Iowa football is, what do you know about Iowa or Iowa football?
Well, I know a lot. We were number 2 in the country in 2016, and we were 9-0, and we went into Kinnick Stadium and lost the game. We played for, when I was at Minnesota, we played at Iowa and lost 21-7 and lost the trophy game there. So I've played Iowa twice. I have the utmost respect for Coach Ferentz. He too started out with Coach Belichick. So we have that mutual relationship. I told him that he's my wife's favorite coach. I don't know why, but he is. So I've told him that as well. She just loves the fact, I think, that he's been at the same job for 20 years. That could be a subtle message to me when she says that Coach Ferentz is her favorite coach. But, I'm excited about going against Iowa. I don't know if our players understand how hard of a stadium it is to play in. We all know how good of the defense is. Coach Parker is phenomenal at what he does. It'll be a great challenge. We know that. I understand it's going to be a big noon game. So that'll be 9 a.m. our time. So we'll have to get accustomed to that. So we'll be in Iowa City a day early. But we're looking forward to it, and we certainly know what a great program Coach Ferentz has.
Coach, yesterday you got a gift. You got 20 additional scholarships. How does that affect your roster management, and I'm guessing that really helps on depth on special teams where you don't have to have as many starters out there. Can you just talk about that a little bit and how you plan on using it if you've thought about it too much?
Yeah, well, what we have to do is we have to figure out how we want to allocate those scholarships. You know, you've got 20 extra scholarships, but every scholarship you use will count against you in your revenue share. So there's opportunities there to be able to use half scholarships, which we've never been able to do in college football before. There's opportunities out there to say, hey, we're going to only use $1 million or $500,000 of those dollars, and the rest of them we're going to give to the players in cash. So I love the idea that now we're not going to sit here and battle over, you know, who in the roster we're going to have to not accept. You know, if we have 91 players, it's great. If we have 31 players committed to us and not 26, and we don't have to worry about making 5 hard phone calls at the end. We're going to recruit high school kids, and we're going to attack the high school game, and we're not going to worry at all about do we have one extra guy at a certain position. And then we'll figure out the scholarships with Pat and Aaron, and we'll figure out how we want to manage it, but we might give out 90 and have 15 walk-ons and pay them revenue share. We might give out 93 or 87, or I'm not sure, but maybe 105. We'll just have to figure out how the numbers work and what's best for our program.
Sounds like math class.
It'll be a little bit more salary capology than it used to be. That's for sure.
Jedd, as you come into a league with some teams that use heavier personnel groupings, does that influence how you and your staff, the body types you look for in high school recruiting? Do you want kids that are bigger right away in the trenches?
Yeah, I love big. You know, that's a big part of our program. We want to be big. We are going to do everything we can to get big. We recruit big anyway. That's our philosophy. We like to play with 2 gappers. We like to play with guys that understand and have a great, they have clarity in terms of their gap control. They have the size that can take on big offensive linemen. Our offensive linemen, we like guys that can play in the National Football League. Remember, we're going to always recruit guys that can play in the NFL. NFL doesn't like small. So it's not really has not changed our philosophy, my recruiting philosophy, whether I was at Arizona, Michigan, UCLA, or here. We have 4 of our 5 starting linemen from UCLA are all in the NFL right now. 4 out of our 5 at Michigan are in the NFL. And we just had a first-round pick, left tackle. So we're going to be big, and that's our mentality.
And Coach, in that recruiting discussion that has staff sizes in college football grow, what do you envision at Washington and nationally with the way that you as a head coach allocate the assistants that you send on the road? Do you envision it being the traditional 10 assistant coaches that go out on the road, or could you have a totally different staff than that?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to really see over the next year what that's going to look like. I don't envision it to be your traditional 10 go on the road. I think you're going to find maybe 6 or 7 guys that are, let's call it, the position coach and the recruiter, and then there'll be about 3 guys that you'll probably send on the road, and 3 guys that'll be more in-house coaching now that that rule has passed that you can coach regardless of your position or title within the building. We need to look at it that way, and what I want to do is I want to make sure our 10 guys that can, you know, stomp the country, do it the best way possible, and the 10 guys that can coach our guys the best every day, we don't miss out on that.
You inherit a spot in a big rivalry against Oregon that now of course is coming into a new conference. What in your view of Coach Lanning over the last couple of years there in Eugene, what have you seen? What do you admire about him as obviously a young guy?
I think Dan's a great coach. He's been around great coaches. He's coached for Kirby. He's coached for Coach Saban. He's done a great job at Oregon. He's a really good defensive coach. He's a really good head coach. I respect what he's done, and I look forward to competing against him. And we certainly will compete against one another November 30th, but I have all the respect in the world for him.
What has been the greatest challenge of this off-season? I mean, you've got a different team, you've got the coaching staff is new to the player, new conference.
The greatest challenge?
Yeah.
Building a roster would be the greatest challenge when you have to I mean, we're sitting there in a spot where we had to find 21 new starters. Some from the team that we had, some from the team we came from, some from other teams, some freshmen. We had to recruit all the way through. We never necessarily knew exactly what it was going to look like. You're battling against teams when it comes to NIL that are in different conversations. You're trying to get players to commit when you don't really understand what the dollars are being offered to them from other programs. You're getting people taking your players for double the money that you were paying them. So there's a lot of different parts to the challenge right now. But without a doubt, the number one challenge for us was building a team that can compete in the Big Ten and figuring out how we were going to do that.
Coach, having coached under Jim Harbaugh, what was it like to watch him kind of reach the summit last year with Michigan win the national championship? Obviously, at the time, you had no idea you were going to Washington later. So can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I hope nobody takes any pictures or shows any pictures of how I was dressed for the national championship game and holds it against me in Seattle. We were Harbaugh guy. You know, my wife and I are very close with Jim and Sarah. I talked to him the day of the game. I talked to him the morning after. I didn't have any expectation of coaching at Washington. I was there for year one and year two. We won 20 games. We were a bad spot away from being in the Big Ten championship game. So I get it, you know, and I think that being with Coach Harbaugh was phenomenal. I was kind of hoping that he was going to be here for one more year so I could have the privilege of saying that I got to coach against him. I coached against him one time as an offensive coordinator. We lost 42-10. So that wasn't very good. But I'm just so happy for him and his family that they're now with the Chargers. He's going to do an amazing job. I believe wholeheartedly he's going to be one of the 5 guys that have won a national championship in the Super Bowl.
And what will you take from coaching with him now that you're coming back into the Big Ten and bringing with it into your program?
Well, there's a toughness and a grit that he requires his teams to have. We talk about, it's all about the W at Washington. It's about working, it's about winning, and it's about Washington. Where I think when he was at Michigan, it was about working, and it was about winning, and it was about Michigan. So, you know, hard work is what he believes in. Blue collar, work shirts, lunch pails. And I respect that about him, and that's what we're going to have our team look like.
Finally, just as a follow-up, you're going to be welcoming Michigan to Seattle midway through the year here. Just talk about that matchup again, two high-profile programs meeting again after last year's national championship, and yet a lot of difference with both rosters.
Yeah, I think it's the same logos and the same universities meeting, but I think the change is enormous. I don't know what their team's going to look like. They don't know what our team's going to look like. We got to play 5 games before it, 4 games before it. So my focus right now is what's training camp going to look like on Tuesday. And we know we're going to have a fantastic atmosphere. We know that the greatest setting in college football is going to be exploding on that day. We expect every camera to be there. We expect every set to be there. And we're looking forward to the opportunity to host Michigan, the national champion. But much more than that, I don't know.
Jedd, what type of work have you guys put into the travel component in terms of who all of you consulted? Like I cover Penn State, and I know one of the things, like they're leaving early to go out west. They've talked with NFL teams. What are some of the things that maybe you guys are focused on recovery-wise, and how competitive of a space do you think that could be with teams trying to get an edge on this travel?
Yeah, we've consulted a little bit, but I've coached in the NFL for 14 years, and I've coached in LA, I've coached in the East Coast, so I kind of understand how we did it. When we hired our head athletic trainer, was in the NFL for 23 years. He was the head trainer for the Cardinals for 15 years, so he's lived through that travel. So for us, it's more along the lines of what do we know is right, what do we believe is right. You're never really 100% sure. I could give you stories of times that we left the day before and won by 30, the times that we left the 2 days before and lost by 30 and vice versa. The greatest saying is, how do you win on the road? You bring a good team. That's the key, not what time you get there. But we are going to be very aware of when we're going to go to Penn State. I believe we'll go the day before. I don't think we'll go 2 days before because it's a night game. We'll leave for Iowa 2 days before because it'll be a day game. And we'll try to play it accordingly based on what we think is the best for their circadian rhythm.
And how hard is that? I mean, like, State College is probably going to be the toughest place you guys have to get to because it's pretty remote, central PA, tiny airport. How much of a factor has that been on your ops people in terms of getting them out there, getting those site visits in?
Yeah, well, we're confident we can land a 737 there. So,
The runway is tough.
Yeah, I know. I've done
your
it.
Equipment getting there?
I've done it. So we're going to have to, you're not jinxing us right now and sending us to Harrisburg.
You might have to go, yeah.
But, we're aware of all the different aspects of it. And, we'll probably take 2 planes to make sure that we get it the way we need it. We do, obviously, it's a long trip. It's a 5.5-hour trip probably for us from Seattle. But, it'll be a good way for our guys to do a lot of homework.
Coach, you've got a very experienced quarterback coming back in Will Rogers, but you've also got a dynamic freshman in Demond Williams. Have you penciled out a plan for him? Because I got to imagine we're going to see him at some point.
Nope, I have not done that. I've not penciled out a plan. I don't necessarily think like that right now in terms of packages for guys. Noah redshirted. He played 4 games in 2022, and then Jaden started in 2023, and we were 3-1, and Jaden sprained his ankle and Noah went in, and we didn't pencil that out, and that just happened, and we went 7-2 after that. I would say it's very similar, that we're going to let Will and Demond fight it out. The starting quarterback will be the starting quarterback. And then I don't expect the next quarterback to go in unless there was an injury or the score was dictating that right now.
With Will, what's something you've learned about him that you didn't know when you first met and first kind of got him on board?
Really smart guy that just loves the game of football, that you can't really figure that out in a day. You don't know how much somebody loves the game, how committed they are, how willing he is to coach. Can we meet, Coach? Can I ask you a question, Coach? I keep reminding him, Will, you're going to get tired of me in training camp. Don't force it now. So his love of the game and his love and passion to do this is something pretty special, and that's fun to see.
What's your assessment of the offensive line transfer haul that you got? Obviously, Max Mr. D'Angelo, T.C. Lee, and Nick Mahi.
Yeah, I think we were able to fill some holes that we needed to fill. Excited to get Gardner Millar and Landon Hatchett back. So you've got 2 guys that were expected to be starters that weren't able to participate in spring that are back. D'Angelo has 48 starts at Portland State. I really like the way he's really handling himself. I think Max and Swanee will have great competition at left tackle. Drew obviously transferred in before I got there, but I'm excited about watching him play. Zach Henning, Paki Finau are both guys that are very young players that are going to impact the program. Enoch is started at Ohio State and in the bowl game, and now we've got him on our team. So we've had about 15 scholarship players right now in the offensive line. In spring we had 7. And 2 injured. So we're in a much better position, a much different position, and pretty fired up about what training camp's going to look like and see how these guys can all match.
Going back to Will, what do you recall from your first conversations when you were trying to get him on board? And obviously, the timing of things made it a little rushed, I'm sure.
Yeah, when I talk to quarterbacks, I talk to them all the same way. I say to them, why would you not want to play in this offense? I know it's arrogant. And I know it's not necessarily what everybody wants to hear, but if you're a quarterback, you should want to play in this offense. We throw the ball about 58 to 60% of the time. We've been in the top 5 in throwing offense every year. At Arizona, UCLA, Josh Rosen was picked top 10 overall. Jaden Delora was a freshman first-team player Noah was the freshman Pac-12 Player of the Year. There's a lot of good evidence of playing quarterback in this offense that if there's one position you should want to play, it's that. So I said to Will, Will, here's what we'll do. Here's what we can do. Here's who we've been around. Here's who we've coached. Take a couple days, talk to your parents, and figure out why in the world you wouldn't want to do this. And his dad called me. We had a 10-minute conversation, and Will called me back about a day later and said, I'm all in. And that's what made me, I love Will. I love Damon. Damon did the same thing. It took Damon about 6 minutes to come from Arizona because he wanted to play in this offense, and he wanted to do what Noah did and Jaden did and Rosen did and Spate did and Rudock did and Jared Goff and Blake Bortles and Cam Newton. So that's what we sell, and hopefully more quarterbacks will want to join that party.
Anybody this offseason who you heard from your strength and conditioning staff who had a big summer since the end of spring who you're looking forward to seeing?
Deuce Davis has gained 20 pounds or 15 pounds. That's really important because I think he's going to be an electric defensive end for us. Isaiah Ward's in a good spot. I understand that Durfee has just had an incredible offseason of working out while he's trying to rehab from his forearm. Logan, who we transferred in here from Miami, is a monster in the weight room. So looking forward to a nose tackle that can just get on, get inside a center and walk them back. So I've heard really good things. Jonah Coleman's done a great job. Cam Davis, we haven't had Cam Davis out there playing, and sometimes I talk about our running backs and I forget because we haven't been able to have Cam participate in a rep. Cam Davis is going to be a fantastic football player for us. So I've heard he's had an outstanding offseason with Coach Owens.